Welcome, everybody, to the Winner's Circle Sports Betting Channel. My name is Ross Benjamin. I'm your host. It's Tuesday afternoon, and it's November the 14th. And like every Tuesday afternoon, we're discussing the NFL with Mr. Chip Chirimbes and Mr. Paul Bovi, all of us of gamblersworld.net, along with 7 other great handicappers, folks, where we guarantee our picks every single game and multi-game daily package, as well as subscription plans of 30 days or fewer, are all guaranteed that if you don't win, you don't make a profit, we will credit your account back the exact amount that you paid for that specific package. Anyway, gentlemen, starting with you, Chip, how are you, my friend?
Well, it's always good when you come off a Game of the Year winner, and Central Florida wins, I think it was 45-3. I know Paulie had it as well. And that makes us 3-0 on the year in our called games of the year. And I have another big one coming this Saturday as well, Ross. And NBA basketball has been on an incredible tear as well, as you know.
Good for you. I know you've been doing awfully well at the site. And I also had Central Florida. I joined you two gentlemen on that winner. So it was a good day in that regard, in terms of all of us having a big play on Central Florida. And by the way, folks, if you don't know the result of that game, Central Florida is a 2.5-point dog, 45-3 winner over Oklahoma State. Anyway, Paulie, how are you?
Good. I wish they could all be like that. I mean, I played it first quarter, first half, and actually got a half a point in the first quarter, and they just shut them down completely. And I had the luxury of turning the game off, which is never something that a gambler is supposed to do, because it's never over, as Yogi said, till it's over. But we led into that pick last week when I mentioned I had a very strong play that one side had a huge advantage over the other side. That was the play. We posted it. We won it. Unfortunately, we lost our total of the week, which was Appalachian State, Georgia State, over the total of 61.5. They fell 5.5 points short, with Appalachian State running the clock out deep in Georgia State territory. But we're going to have a huge play. We're 4-0 in the MAC, by the way, over the last 2 weeks. We have a MAC play up tonight. It's a very strong one. If you happen to get this on Tuesday, and we'll have a couple up in the NFL on Sunday.
Yep. So there you have it. Paul Bovi. He's a real-life wise guy, folks. And from what I understand, from what I gathered with our conversation off air, he's the #1 eating handicapper as well, being challenged by a lot bigger gentleman as far as how much he could eat. Paul, tell us a little bit. I know that came up on the Circus Show the other day.
Yeah, well, eating and quantity of food that one can consume is not based on their overall size. It's based on, and I'll cite Kobayashi on this, or what's his face? Who's the guy? The name
Joey
escapes.
Chestnut.
Joey Chestnut, who's king of the hill for the last 17 years. These guys are not big, but they have elasticity is what counts, and what drives the ability to eat large quantities of food. So I have that ability, and I've taken on the biggest and the best, and maybe something's going to happen in the future. I have my cuisine of choice that I like to engage in when I entertain these competitions, and we'll see what happens. But I do like to eat. Yeah,
and I understand Jelly Roll. You know who Jelly Roll is?
Yeah,
he's a performer, and he likes to smoke a lot of weed, and he's ready to take you on. He told me, so we'll see what happens there. Anyway, I'm coming off a 5-0 Sunday in the NFL, 5-3 weekend in college football. Very happy about that. I had a top play winner on the Washington Commanders, which actually was my toughest way to win out of all 5 picks, but I did it. Had Pittsburgh and Cleveland over the total of 38. So much for the top 2 defensive scoring teams in the NFL. It was a shootout, basically, even though they did score 2 defensive touchdowns. And it was a great day. So things are rolling right along. And like Chip, my NBA since last year, doing awfully well. But today we're talking NFL. And Paulie's going to look at the Chargers and Packers, Chipper, the Steelers and the Browns, And I'm going to be looking at the Titans and the Jags. And you Jags fans that were all over me last week, I'm going to give it to you real good again this week. So stay tuned. And I challenge you. You can give me all the comments you want and call me all the names you want. But tell me why that team isn't a fraud. Let's get to the free picks at hand. Let's start with Paul this week. The Chargers and the Packers. The Chargers right now a 3-point favorite, the total 44. Boy, oh boy, you'd be hard-pressed to say that the Chargers, they have to be the best losing team at this juncture of the season that I could recall in recent memory anyway. But your take, Paul.
Yeah, they've lost a lot of tough ones, and it started out with that, I think it was a 2-point loss to Miami in the opener, a game they could have easily won. They didn't. They had a tough one against the Cowboys. They easily could have flipped the script on at least 3 of these games. And last week, they had a shootout with the Lions. They were on the short end. It wasn't as bad as one would what it would seem to be on the scoreboard. They did give up, I think, 38 points. But the Lions had 2 breakaway runs, one of which was 40 yards. The other one was 35. And Goff had a nice game, but the Chargers moved the ball up and down the field. Now, the Chargers have done this without the benefit of a running game. I mean, on Sunday, they ran the ball 28 times for, I believe, 98 yards. Not very good. But this week will be a different story because Green Bay has been horrific against the run. And this goes back to week 2 when this was pinpointed, when the Falcons ran through them. And it's continued throughout. They've lost key players to injury. Jair Alexander was out on Sunday, and that's 2 rookie cornerbacks that they have playing right now, 2 of them. And not only that, Warren ran through him for 101 yards. He's now been appointed the lead back. Najee Harris, I think, had 82. They gashed him repeatedly up the middle. So what I could see happening here is the Chargers should score points. And Green Bay has been futile on offense. I know it's probably a good spot for the Packers. They're home. Chargers are off a big game. Chargers don't have defense, but I don't think they're going to be able to trade scores with a team that should put up 27 to 30 points. I don't care if they're playing in Lambeau or not. The Packers are not going to be able to stop this team, and Green Bay should roll up the numbers. I'm sorry, the Chargers should roll up the numbers and score a victory here on the road.
Yeah, Keenan Allen, the veteran wide receiver, even though everybody on the other team and their defensive coordinators and defensive personnel and defensive coaches know that he's going to be the number 1 target, he continues to get open and produce and produce and produce. And Justin Herbert, boy, you know, I really like that kid. He throws a nice ball, and I think he deserves better. And, you know, you mentioned the Chargers run game, Paul. They sort of teased their fan base with that 200-yard plus effort in their season opener against Miami, and they haven't remotely come close to that since. So if they could even get 150 yards, 125 yards against Green Bay with their passing game, it's going to set up play action pass, and I agree with you. I like the Chargers here in this contest as well. Chipper, your thoughts?
Well, you know, Ross, we've seen a lot of bad football this year. I mean, really, I think more than any other season that I could remember, where there's just really bad teams and teams that like don't function well, and Green Bay is one of them. San Diego on the other side isn't a bad football team, but they just play bad football. And
the LA Chargers, Chipper.
I'm sorry. Are they the LA Chargers?
Yeah, they are.
Not to me.
Even though they got more fans in San Diego than in LA. Go ahead, buddy.
And anyway, it's it just seems like they're a team that's always going to make that key error and a crucial play, and they're just underachievers that we're always expecting more from them, and we never develop. I mean, they blew a 27-0 lead in a playoff game. I mean, that's unfathomable to me. But Packers are really hurting. I mean, they failed to cover on a missed extra point against the Steelers. And that's a whole nother story talking about the Steelers. But I can understand wanting the Chargers here, after the way they played valiantly against Detroit. I mean, Detroit certainly they ran the ball, and they also had a 75-yard run from scrimmage with Montgomery for a touchdown. So they ran the ball all over this Charger team. I don't know what to expect from it in this game because we know San Diego's going to put up points, and I don't think there's going to be much love in Green Bay. Don't like it.
And he said San Diego again, but he means the LA Chargers, folks.
Yeah.
We're creatures of habit, and I can't tell you
how
how
much
much
when it comes to
that. No, you know what? I've probably done that at least 10 times since they switched over to from San Diego to LA. But yeah, I mean, that's a concern, them stopping the run, because if Green Bay does anything well, it's their running game. Yeah. But by the same token, if the Chargers, the key, I think, will be, Paul, is if they could jump up and grab a lead early on, a multi-possession lead, where they force Green Bay to maybe not abandon the run, but be a little more pass heavy, I think it would be to their advantage.
I agree with you. And mind you, Green Bay's also using rookie receivers, Wicks, and then I forgot the name of the other receiver. Green Bay has sustained too many injuries this year, and it was started off by David Bakhtiari and has continued throughout. And they haven't been able to consistently have the same players in the lineup, and it's hurt them immensely. There were a lot of sharp people that were very high on the Green Bay Packers in the early part of the year and before the season, and they've all gone away. And the Chargers should cruise in this situation. We'll see what happens. You never know. They're on the road. Stranger things have happened.
Yeah,
Paulie,
when you start,
do you think this line's a little shallow to start with?
No, maybe by a hook, maybe by a half a point. But the thing is, I don't as much pay attention to what the number is, because that's just the opinion of somebody setting it. And it all comes down to one or two people and sharp minds. And sometimes they're not sharp. I respect bookmakers. We had this conversation last week, but they're not always right. And that's why totals move the way they move, because sometimes they set a total at 48, and by the time you blink, it's 52. So you got to get them when they're a little light, and I think they are a little light here. And I think by game time, this will be 3 and a hook or 3 minus 30.
Yeah, I mean, it opened at 2.5, Chipper. So to Paul's point, yeah. So again, yeah, we had a prolonged conversation last week about this topic, and good points were made on both sides. And if you want to go back to the archive of last week, you can, and you could catch that conversation with somewhere near the middle of the show. And it's what we like to do here on this show. Not only give you free picks, folks, but we're trying to make you a smarter sports bettor today than you were yesterday. I mean, again, we want to win our free picks, but we make a living selling our picks and winning our bets. So the free picks, it's business 101. You're not going to give your best stuff away for free. You could do that on occasion, but you're trying to stay in business. It's sort of difficult to do. In any event, Paulie, tell the folks what you may foresee coming up this week. I know it's still early. So, and what else, a noteworthy item that you want to bring to their attention on why they should spend their hard-earned money with you?
Because I am on every game I give out. And I'm gonna make a point here and just pile on to what I said a moment ago. I think the bookmakers got the number wrong on Seattle and the Rams on the total. I'm not going to give it out because it's moved too much. But I played it at 44. It's at 46.5 right now. I can't give out a play like that because the value has been sucked out. So that's where you have to find where the bookmaker has made a mistake. And I have noted some mistakes in this week's line that still are in our favor. I will post a few of those. I have a MAC game up. We got the best of the number, and I will have a few up this week. So capitalize on what is available to you. I have my money behind all these picks. I do not post a pick unless I play it myself, and I tend to play these pretty heavy.
Yeah, and again, one of the major points when we discussed this topic last week, and we both agreed, is respect the bookmaker, but not fear them. So there you have it. Anyway, all right, Chipper, let's get to you. Steelers and the Browns. This has all the makings of a real yawner, but again, Cleveland. Cleveland, to me, when Deshaun Watson's in the lineup, obviously they're a better team, and he's in the lineup again. And it showed last week at Baltimore. And I just can't see the Steelers moving the ball on this Browns defense. And I said it last week, Chip, and I'll say it again. I picked on Jacksonville as a fraud. Pittsburgh 6-3. Look at their yard per game differential. Look at their point per game differential. Yep. Go ahead. I don't want to steal your thunder.
No, it's you mentioned Deshaun Watson, and he is such an impact player that the last time they met, when Pittsburgh won 26-22 by picking up only 9 first downs, Deshaun Watson had 4 fumbles, an interception, and they lost the ball 4 different times. It was just a debacle for Cleveland, who was in complete command of the game, the first matchup. Yeah. I don't know if you remember, it was a nationally televised game.
They scored 2 defensive touchdowns.
Right. And Pittsburgh had 55 yards rushing in that game. And yet they've always had the Browns number. Now they're 4-1 in the last 5 meetings. I'm going back, say years ago in trends, which, I know, Russ, you don't put too much stock in, but talking about current things, I can tell you right now that Pittsburgh, as a 28th ranked offense, which no one's surprised at, giving up 283 yards. But they're giving up 90 yards more per game to their opponents, and their defense is also ranked 28th. And I would have expected, when I was taken back with this, I would have expected they would have been ranked in the top 5. Turnovers have been the difference, but I'm talking about yardage here. And Cleveland, of course, is only allowing 242 yards a game, number 1 in the NFL defensively. And they're gaining 333 in around there. So they have a 100-yard advantage per game over the Steelers. But the Steelers defense somehow always seems to manage. They've given up 4.4 points in the third quarter and only 3.4 points in each game in the fourth quarter. And that's why they're winning games. Ross, this team has been outplayed 9 straight games and is 6-3, like you said. Outgained in the first meeting between these two. They must be using mirrors, but this total, if this game plays the Hoyle and it goes the way it's supposed to, this is supposed to come down. It started, I think, at 38.5, and you gave me 36.5 here. And like Paulie says, you got to try and grab the value early. But I don't. To me, it's going to be an anomaly for there to be any scoring for either team to get to 21 points. I don't think that happens. It may be a field goal game here, but might have expected the same thing out of the Ravens and the Browns last week, and that was an offensive explosion. So the number is so small here. It's sort of telling me, and I think these two teams are going to play to each other. The first game went over. No way it was supposed to go over. This game, I think, is going to stay under, Ross.
Yep. So Chipper likes Cleveland and Pittsburgh to go under 36.5. Like I said, a potential yawner, and Chipper sees it that way as well. And, in that first matchup, 26-22, like I alluded to, Pittsburgh scored 2 defensive touchdowns in that game. And that's the game that Nick Chubb got hurt as well. A terrible injury. He got hurt early on. That certainly didn't help Cleveland's cause at that time. But, even without Nick Chubb, Paulie, Cleveland's been able to run the ball pretty effectively.
Yeah, they have. And I'm going to agree with Chip here because, first of all, these teams don't like each other. And that Myles Garrett is not fond of the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I think that first game will keep Cleveland motivated after that huge win on Sunday, which could be a natural letdown spot. But it's a division game. They need to win this. Revenge is definitely in play here. And I've thrown a lot of shade at the Steelers this year because their offense is pathetic. Their defense took a hit when Minka Fitzpatrick went out, and that certainly hurt them. They haven't been very good. And I think they beat the Green Bay on Sunday, in large part because Green Bay couldn't defend their running game. As I mentioned before, they went for over 200 yards, the Steelers did. Kenny Pickett, I think, was something like 14 for 29 for 134 yards. So I don't see the Steelers getting more than 13 or 14 points here at best. And if there are no turnovers in play here by the Cleveland Browns, I don't think Pittsburgh exceeds that number, which puts this game in a strong position to go under the total and Cleveland to get the cover.
Very good. So Paul agrees with Chipper on the under. I'm not going to be quite as brave on the 36.5. Sort of a low number. And I get concerned with both of these defenses being able to not only score defensively, but create short fields for their offense. But however, it's certainly, they make a compelling case, and you can't disagree with all the points they've made. I will say this. I just think I'm going to go Cleveland here, minus the 4. They're coming off that big win against Baltimore last week, but they're 6-3. The Steelers are 6-3, and Baltimore's 7-3. All right, you lose this game at home to a very winnable game. You just wasted that win against Baltimore last week. I can't believe playing it. Maybe on the road there would be a little bit of a mental letdown, but I can't believe that's going to occur at home. I like Cleveland here. I think they could win this game by at least 2 touchdowns, maybe along the lines of 24-10. 17-3 to align with my guys' picks on the under. So that's my take there. Chipper, tell the folks why they should spend their hard-earned money with you over at gamblersworld.net. And let me just look here real quickly, Chipper, before we get to you. Okay. Chip is number 1 over the last 30 days with a 60-44 record in all sports. That's good. $100 per unit bettors, $6,347. He's number 3 the last 60 days, 112-93, up $6,544, and he's number 3 overall since the site started. So go ahead, Chip. I'm just trying to help your cause here.
That's good enough reason. I like to say Chip wins, and that's a good reason to call. And, particularly when I have, say, the big plays, this, Ross, that I like that big megabuck play, which is my single strongest play. And, of course, these games of the year now, which are coming into fold, 3-0 this season, 9-1 last year. I have a conference game of the year. These are called games of the year where it sets itself up to a point where I can't pass it. And if it's not there, I would pass. But this Saturday, there's another big one out there for us. And log on, follow the buy links, and become an A-play winner with the single strongest play on the board.
Red Hot Chip Chirimbes, folks. Shame on you if you don't jump on him right now, because he started out slow at the site, but right now he's on fire. And when he's in the midst of one of these streaks, you can make a ton of money. And I would highly advise not only his single game and multi-game daily packages, but for Paul too, 3-day, 7-day, 30-day packages gives you the best opportunity to win with the great handicappers we have at our site, because the objectivity of why we're what we want is for you to make money over the long haul. And you can't, 1-day packages are good for those of you who like to dabble in once in a while. But, for those of you who want to win over the long haul, and quit jumping from handicapper to handicapper. One guy's hot, you lose with him. The next guy's hot, you lose with him. You'll never win that way. You got to stay with one guy, stay him for a while. I don't care who you pick, but give that the opportunity to come to fruition. And the best part about it, if you happen to catch anybody on a bad week, a bad 3-day run, or a bad month, you're going to get credited your account back, and you could use that toward any future purchases. And I would like to tell you that it's highly probable that that's going to be a moot point. In any event, you could find me also at gamblersworld.net. I'm number 1 over the last 7 days, number 3 over the last 30 days, number 1 over the last 60 days since the site started. $165.25 in all sports, and $100 a unit players are up $8,611. That's for starters. In terms of long-term streaks, since week 2 of the NFL season, 31-18, 63%. College football since December 2nd of last year, 62-40. That's good for 61%. My NBA since April 12th of this year, which dates back to last season, 45-26, good for 63%. And I love my college basketball totals. I haven't released one yet this season, but when you go back to last December, my college basketball totals 40-24 with my last 64, and that also is good for 63%. So a lot of reasons why you want to buy from myself at gamblersworld.net as well. All right, let me get to my game. Tennessee at Jacksonville. Jacksonville's a 6.5-point favorite. The total is 40. All right, so I told you last week, and I got a lot of lashback, I should say, in terms of what I said about Jacksonville. I think Jacksonville's a good team. There's no two ways about it. But they're not as good as their record indicates. They went into last week 5-0 straight up in ATS in their last 5. And I told you, think like a bookmaker. That's the way I like to talk. And when you looked at that line last week, San Francisco is a 3-point favorite. They're 0-3 and straight up in ATS in their last 3. Jacksonville, like I just touched upon, 5-0 straight up in ATS, and the 49ers come up as a road favorite. Not only did I give you as a free pick, I gave it out as a premium pick too, which is very rare that I do that. What was the result? Well, you Jags fans don't need to hear this, but I'm going to say it anyway. San Francisco won 34-3. The Jags were outgained once again, I should say, in that game, and decisively. I think the total yardage was, the disparity was a little over 200 yards, if I'm not mistaken, in that game that favored San Francisco. They committed 4 turnovers. In their last 3, the Jacksonville Jaguars are -6 in turnover differential. Again, San Francisco, here it is, 437 to 221 was the total yardage in that game. So I was wrong. It was 216 yards. Now the Jags are 5-0 on the road in neutral site games, but this one's at home, and they're 1-3 at home this year. And at home, they're getting outscored by 10.5 points per game and 106.7 yards per game. They're getting outgained by, despite their 6-3 record. Going back to Chipper's point with the Pittsburgh Steelers, not quite as bad as Pittsburgh. But when you consider the fact this is a 6-3 team, a division leader, and you're being outgained by 25 yards per game and only have a plus 0.4 point per game differential, like I said last week, good team, but in terms of an elite team, a Super Bowl contender, it's a fraud. Sorry. Tennessee, on the other hand, something's got to give here because Jacksonville struggled at home. Tennessee is 0-6 straight up and 1-5 against the spread on the road, being outscored by 9.7 points per game and 106.3 yards per game. They're getting outgained by. They have a rookie quarterback in Will Levis who's shown good signs, but certainly not many good signs last week in that 20-6 loss against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. However, I got to come up with a tiebreaker. One team's bad at home. The other team's terrible on the road. By the way, folks, you Jacksonville fans, did you realize your team is 0-8 straight up in ATS? Last 8 games is a home favorite of 8.5 or less when they're coming off a loss? That's horrible. It's absolutely horrible. And I'm not going to go out on a limb and pick Tennessee to win this game, but I think this game is going to be much closer than Jacksonville Jaguar fans are going to be comfortable with. I wouldn't be shocked to see an outright upset here. I have nothing against you people in Jacksonville, but the best thing to come out of the Jacksonville area is not the Jaguars. It was a rock band called Leonard Skinner, okay? And the Jaguars ain't Leonard Skinner, and I'm going against the Jaguars again this week. Tennessee plus 6.5 against Jacksonville. Paul?
Well, this Freebird, I'm going to agree with you, okay? Because I think I think Tennessee will probably keep it close. Yeah, Jacksonville, look, they imploded on Sunday. It was 4 turnovers that did them in. They were outgained by 200 yards, but they ran fewer plays. And the game at halftime was within reach. I think San Francisco had 13 points, but it just got away in the second half. And I don't have a lot of faith in the Jaguars to cover a big number. I'm not a huge Trevor Lawrence fan. I think he's at times looked very good, and at times he's looked not so good. So Will Levis has looked okay. I think they'll bounce back, and I just think 6.5 is too much here. I actually think Tennessee will put some points on the board. By the way, one of the Jags receivers today was arrested. I'm sure you heard about it. I think it was Zay Jones, and I don't know how it's going to affect him being in the lineup. I know he was out a few weeks, but the Jaguars are not worthy of being favored by 6.5 points. So, Ross, I agree.
Wow, there we go. And you know, Chipper, Leonard Skinner is my favorite band of all time, Jacksonville fans. So just take that to show you that it's not anything against your community, but I don't like your team. Chipper, what about you?
I hope a team from Tennessee has better fortunes than Leonard Skinner. You know, this, right? You know, this is ugly. This Tennessee team, who supposedly has one of the great runners in the NFL, can't run the ball, and they've had to go to Willits. It's kind of it's an enigma here for me looking at this, because when I looked at this game, I just turned my head away. I really want to know part of it. I'm glad it's part of a free play and I don't have to worry about, you know, trying to make a decision on it. But I would take the points because of, you know, the fact that you just mentioned, Roy, coming off a loss and coming home, that Jacksonville hasn't bounced back as the strongest entity. And I can see playing against them here. And the way Tennessee performed last week, they have to be sucking it up and coming together and trying to play a little bit better. So I would take the Titans here.
Yeah. Again, Jacksonville's 0-8 straight up in ATS in their last 8 games, a home favorite of -8.5 or less, like they are. They will be on Sunday. And that's when coming off a straight up loss, which they're coming off a straight up loss. Hard to figure out a team like this when they have a dichotomy between home and away and the disparity in the records between home and away. But again, we're talking about, and I think that Chip and Paul made the point as well, we're talking about having to lay 6.5 points, folks. Remember, this is a sports betting show. You're not watching the NFL today. You know, we're picking winners against the spread. So in any event, boys, it's always a pleasure to do a show with you guys, two of the best that ever done it over the years. And I'm totally flattered that you guys join me every week. And Chipper, you're going to be joining us on Thursdays now. So
that's
Chip,
great. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. And Paulie, it's always a pleasure. And I hope everything's well in Mexico. And remember, folks, Paul, he owns the MAC conference. He's got a big play tonight. I got 4 big winners tonight. Chipper's got winners for you tonight if you happen to see this in time. If not, you heard everything. You heard the records. You heard what we got going on. You heard what we got coming up. If you have not subscribed to our YouTube channel, again, folks, there's a WC logo right in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. Click on that. It's absolutely free. That's if you're on your PC, you'll see that WC logo, by the way. And you'll be all set to go. If you're on your mobile device or your smartphone or smart TV, excuse me, which the majority of you are, all you need to do is hit that black subscribe button. And then if you've subscribed already or you're a new subscriber, please take note. Go into your YouTube settings. I mean, it's great to subscribe. We appreciate it. But the bottom line is you want to know when our shows go up. And if you go into your YouTube settings and hit that alert notification bell for the Winner's Circle Sports Betting channel, you'll be notified immediately upon us releasing any of our podcasts on our channel. Chip, there's a like button there. What should they do with that like button?
Well, they should go to it and just click it. Maybe click it twice.
Well, we'll take one time. and make us happy one time. If you want to click it twice, that's okay.
This isn't an election. I made a mistake.
No, it's not. You know what? It's not okay, because if they click it twice, it unlikes. Click it once. Only Chip can make a mess of that. Anyway, click that like button, folks. It's just a small token of your appreciation for the work, time, and effort we put into giving you a quality podcast on a daily basis. And again, folks, our main goal will always continue to be, always has been, it's great. We could give you free pick winners on the show. Again, I already don't mean to make light of it, but it's not our best picks of the week. But that doesn't mean that we don't want to win. And we have won with these free picks. But at the end of the day, we want to make you a smarter sports bettor today than you were yesterday. And that goes for tomorrow, too. So until the next time, for Mr. Chip Chirimbes and Mr. Paul Bovi, I'm Ross Benjamin. We like to wish each and every one of you all the very best today. I'll be back tomorrow morning with Sean Higgs and Jesse Schule discussing more college football. Until then, folks, take care and God bless.